Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Jordan Goodman, and this is Good Thinks. This is a special episode because it's the first episode. And I'm going to start off by talking a little bit about me. Right now I'm in the U.S. Navy. I'm deployed in the Middle East, more specifically Bahrain. I fucking hate it here, but I thought I'd do this, make it a little bit more fun. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself, a couple movies that I like, so that way you guys can kind of see where I'm headed with all the episodes and stuff like that. So I'll list off my top 4 favorite movies. Number 4 is Back to the Future. 3 is Terminator 2. 2 is Aliens. And 1 is Jaws. Jaws is the shit. And episode to episode, I'm probably going to be reviewing a movie, maybe pitching it a different way, and possibly reviewing a couple TV shows that I'm watching. Right now, I'm watching Lost for the first time. Yeah, I know I'm late, but better late than never. I heard it's an amazing show. And maybe sometimes I'll do comic reviews. I'll have guests on here I'll be interviewing. Currently, in Bahrain, I don't really have anybody to interview, but when I go home on leave in October, most likely I'll be interviewing a couple people that you might find pretty interesting. Alright, so let's dive right in. First off, the first movie I'm going to talk about today is The Mummy. Not the Brendan Fraser one. I wish it was that good, but sadly the Tom Cruise one is not that good. Or not as good anyways. The first time Tom Cruise's Mom's Shoes and Russell Crowe's Uncle Clothes are on screen together. I was really happy about this movie, looking up to it. I knew it wasn't going to be as good as the Brendan Fraser movies, but I had hope, especially with this whole Dark universe. I thought it was going to be amazing, honestly. You know, I hope it was going to be as great as the original movies. You know, Dracula from the 50s, all that fun stuff. But, me personally, I've seen it twice. I think I'd rate it about a 6.5 out of 10. I know that's high. Most people think it's complete garbage. I thought it was a fun movie. Just halfway through, I kind of lost... It kind of got me, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on right now? Like, it was more at the scene where he finally met Dr. Jekyll, and it kind of just shifted slowly into his movie in the middle of the movie. And then after about 30 minutes of it, it hopped back into The Mummy, which I thought was odd. I'm pretty sure everyone thought that was odd. Like, I was enjoying Mummy up to that point. What they should have done was they should have thrown that in at the not an after credits, but at the end of the movie. Like, let's say he beats the curse and all that wonderful stuff. And then, boom. The woman's name, blanking out on her name, but she says, hey, I have someone who might be able to help. And it just ends up with Russell Crowe there. Kind of like what they did with in the first Iron Man with Nick Fury. I thought that would have been amazing. But they didn't do that. I also wouldn't have started the Dark Universe with The Mummy. Especially since it's focused on the Institute Perdigium, which is what Russell Crowe is the leader of. If they were gonna have it so heavily focused around this group, I think they probably should have had it start off with the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde movie, and because it took place, I believe, in the 1800s. I don't know, I haven't read the book in a while. But if it took place during that time and they're using that same thing with the Dark Universe, they should have started with that movie, kind of showed him shifting throughout the times, and then showing him how he started that. So that way, we're not like, it's not a sucker punch when they throw in the middle of the Mummy movie. Another couple things that I didn't like was Tom Cruise. He was in the military. He was called sergeant multiple times, but it felt like he was more of a contractor or a freelance. Because if you have a general yelling at you and you're standing there all nonchalantly, non-saluting, everything like that, that gets you into some deep shit. And he kind of just up and ditched. And why was the army listening to some random woman? It made no sense to me. But I kind of took it against the cheek, and I thought of it as a fun popcorn movie. I kind of turned my brain off a little bit. And one other thing, I thought it kind of focused a little bit too heavy on Russell Crowe and what happened in London, where they uncovered the burial sites a little bit more when they should have been focusing on Tom Cruise in the beginning. Maybe thrown that in a little bit later, or kept just the newscast without Russell Crowe. Another thing, the mummy herself, she basically used the god of death, made a pact with him to kill her brother and her dad. I never really understood why she needed that. I think she could have just killed her brother and her dad and ruled the kingdom. I mean, I don't really see why. They didn't really explain why the ceremony was so important for her to be, I guess, part goddish. I don't really know exactly what it was. She had way too many grab bag of powers. I think they should have just stuck with the sucking out the life force of their victims and making them their zombies. I didn't understand how the Crusaders actually became part with her just because she said something. She's not the god of death. If she was the god of death, that'd be a different story. But that's who was trying to possess Tom Cruise, and at the end he did. Or it did. I don't know. But I think they should have just stuck with the sand, the beetles, the control over the animals, and the zombifying thing. That's what they should have stuck with. It would have made it a lot easier. I did notice. Oh, I'm pretty sure everyone who's seen it once or twice noticed a lot of the Easter eggs in it. I thought that was pretty cool how they had the giant squid carcass in there. They kind of just skimmed over it, though. I would have liked them to have gone over that a little bit, since they're already going with that whole Dr. Jekyll Perdigium thing. And I'm hoping that they actually focus on the Kraken. That gets a little bit of light, because I do love me some Kraken. They also had a vampire skull in there, which is pretty interesting. I hope it wasn't Dracula, because, we want to see him a little bit in the future. And they had a couple hands, flippers, hands, things of the creature of the Black Lagoon. I'm just kind of confused, because with the Dark Universe, they're supposedly bringing all these monsters together and tying them in. And I'm pretty sure they're going to form some Avengers thing, like the Howling Commandos were, so to speak. Because in Marvel, the Howling Commandos in the future were Frankenstein, I think it was the Man-Thing, which is basically Creature of the Black Lagoon, but a lot more swampy. And the werewolf and a couple other movie monsters. I mean, if they're going to do that, it's kind of weird. But, I mean, they're going it. Me personally, I would have pitched it two different ways. I would have pitched the Dark Universe as a straight-up horror franchise. And I would have just made everything straight horror. Because, I mean, that's what movie monsters are for. They're to scare the living shit out of you. And another way I would have pitched it, as I said a little bit earlier, I would have started with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde movie. And then branch out, do a Dracula movie, and branch out and do a Frankenstein movie. So you have the three biggest movie monsters. Well, I guess technically speaking, Dr. Jekyll isn't the biggest movie monster, but he is the main focus of this franchise, as it looks like at this moment. But the order of the movies that I've heard so far, it doesn't sound very good. Because it starts off with The Mummy, then Bride of Frankenstein, then I believe it was The Invisible Man, and then Phantom of the Opera. I don't really understand where they're going with this, especially since nowadays people don't really know much about Frankenstein, minus, he's green, he has a flat top, and he walks around looking like a zombie. But a couple of years ago at Halloween Horror Nights, if you guys don't know what that is, it's where Universal hosts a haunted houses throughout the park, and they have scare zones, which are little areas when you walk through the park that they have monsters just kind of walking around. There was one area where it was the classic movie monsters, Universal, and Frankenstein was in it, and there were a couple people asking, Frankenstein's monster, and people are asking, like talking to each other, asking who is that, and they're asking who Dr. Frankenstein was, and that pissed me off a little bit. But I mean, people aren't as literary as they are, I don't know, 10, 20 years ago, but yeah, they should have started on the main monsters, which would have probably attracted more people. I think the reason why that they used The Mummy first was the fact that the Brendan Fraser movies were so popular that they're like, screw it. I mean, this is the best way out at the moment. They'll probably get a lot of ticket sales just on, Brendan Fraser's Mummy alone. I mean, they did plug the movie one time when they had the Book of Ra in it, But besides that, they didn't really have anything about it. I think it would have made it a ton better since he had the control over life or death at the end. Tom Cruise was you see maybe he's in when he goes up to Egypt, he sees Brendan Fraser, old guy Brendan Fraser when he's old, and he goes, hey, so he's in a bar maybe, and he's like basically talking to the bartender about being cursed, and then you see Brendan Fraser's like, oh, I know something about curses, and you see it, fans go crazy. And maybe he restores his life, and then we get Brendan Fraser back. I think that would have been amazing. But I think that they did an alright job. It was a lot better than Dracula Untold. I personally enjoyed Dracula Untold, but I think they roamed too much in the origin story. They should have left the mystery with it and just, made him a vampire. Kind of like what they did with the book, where the first time you met him with Jonathan Harker, and he's kind of telling it, and you meet him. All you know about him is he's an older gentleman, white hair, white mustache, sharp teeth, very pale. And then it keeps slowly revealing that he's a vampire. And I thought that was amazing. It left a little bit of mystery to it. I'm actually reading the book right now. It's a very good book. I mean, it's a classic, of course. It's a great book, but yeah, I think they should have left a little bit of mystery to it with Dracula. But yeah, that's all I gotta say about The Mummy. I don't understand why they're redoing Phantom in the Opera. I think if they were redoing Phantom in the Opera, they should have waited a little bit. Again, I'm reiterating, stay with your basics. But I'm going to break off the Dark Universe a little bit and talk about Halloween Horror Nights. Which, I mean, yeah, technically, Dark Universe is still owned by Universal. Universal does Halloween Horror Nights. I mean, if they kept this to a straight horror franchise, I'm pretty sure that they could have marketed this out as a straight horror franchise and made more money at the parks. Because, I mean, granted, Mummy had a couple jump scares in it, but I mean, it was just supposed to be like, it felt like a fun-ish action adventure movie, and then it just threw horror in there out of nowhere. I mean, it is a Mummy movie. I was expecting a couple jumps. But I don't know. I thought it would have been better as a horror if they could market it to a lot more stuff. Another thing I would have done differently, I probably would have made the movies hard R, just for the fact that horror movie, blood, guts, gore, all that fun stuff. For horror movies, I gotta say I'm a big fan of Sam Raimi's Evil Dead. I love me some blood, guts, and gore. I think that would have been great to start off as, with a. You know what? I'm just going to pitch the movie. Screw it. I was going to save this for next week, but I am only 10 minutes in. How I would have done it, I know everyone hates the found footage thing, but I think it would have been pretty cool. Excuse me. If they did a found footage movie of a couple archaeologists or just people exploring the pyramids, and maybe the ground caves in on them, and they fall into a tomb that has not been discovered yet. And I guess they screw with the sarcophagus. It awakens the curse of the mummy. I would have done King Tut, and because King Tut, some people are convinced that the curse of Tut is real, and they could have had the mummy picking them off one at a time. I thought that would have been nice. Maybe a scene where they have a bunch of locusts or scarabs just completely destroy someone, eat them alive. I thought that would be pretty good. And just for the fact that it sells tickets. I mean, those horrible Paranormal Activity movies, I think they made like 6 or 7. There's one more coming out, I think. And they're making bank. I mean, I'm pretty sure the sales have went down now, but what I learned from the movies is and this is the go with Transformers. If it makes money, it's probably gonna get a sequel. But yeah, that would be my pitch, my short pitch for The Mummy. Found footage horror movie, hard R. And I wouldn't do a found footage for Dracula per se. Honestly, I think a modified novel adaptation would be the best for it. I thought the novel was great. The characters were great. You know, it wasn't no Hugh Jackman as Van Helsing shoot 'em up kind of movie, but it was very classy to it. You know, it started off nonchalant. You didn't know it. You know, if you didn't know it was Dracula, you probably wouldn't know that it was a vampire novel. And I actually like that about that. Like, it just starts off with him being like an off vibe. I thought that's brilliant. I would have done a straight to book adaptation. I like the characters. You know, Jonathan Harker is actually my favorite character in the book, as one of the main characters. I thought he was integral, and even though he was freaked the fuck out from what happened at Dracula's castle, he still stayed with the team and found out as much as he could. And even when Mina Harker, his wife, was getting feasted upon by Dracula while he's lying in the bed basically petrified, he still pushed on. I thought that was great. And Dr. Van Helsing, I mean, he was basically one of the best scientists of that time. I thought that was great. And how they left it in a insane asylum. They had Renfield, the psychopath, and let me talk a little bit about Renfield, because I actually enjoyed his part in the novel. So when he died, it kind of pissed me off. So basically, he started off as a psychopath. He just kind of won one of the Dr. Seward, which is one of the other characters who manages the mental asylum, who is the protege of Van Helsing. He always, because the book is based on their journal entries. So it starts off with him just saying, "Oh, he's a bit odd. He puts sugar out on the windowsill and he collects flies, and the flies attract spiders, and he collects all the spiders." And I'm like, all right, that's nice enough. It jumps back to Jonathan Harker, then jumps back to Dr. Seward. The next thing you know, he's eating spiders, basically sucking the blood of them. And first thing I thought, I'm like, oh, there's no fucking way he's not a vampire. He wasn't. And I thought that was a nice little allusion that was great for that'd be great for the movie. I mean, if you read the book, you already know what's going on, but I thought it would have been great. Straight novel to movie adaptation would be amazing. And then I already talked about Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. And personally, if I had it, I try to get the rights to every cryptid and make movies like that, because people eat that shit up. I mean, Finding Bigfoot is on like its 8th season. I'm pretty sure people will go watch a movie about Bigfoot or the Yeti. Shit, throw Josh Gates in there, the ex-host of Destination Truth, and you got yourself a movie right there. What else? Yeah, cryptid movies. Or shit, how about throw Tremors in the dark universe? Do love me some Tremors. Maybe bring back Kevin Bacon. That'd be great. As much as I love Michael Gross's character Bert, yeah, all the guns and all that fun stuff, I think it'd be awesome if we had Kevin Bacon. As much as I think it'd be hilarious to be the Invisible Man too, but I digress. I would like Tremors. I need me some more Tremors that aren't, straight to DVD. I think that covers it for the Dark Universe. You know what? Since I got about 15 minutes more on this podcast, I think I'm going to go a little bit into Marvel, just because I'm a huge Marvel buff. I'm just going to say it right now. Top 2 favorite heroes in Marvel, Spider-Man, Deadpool. But top superhero of all time is Ash Williams from Army of Darkness. Loved him in the movies. And I read the comic books, and he's still a badass in them. So, for Marvel, sadly, I'm not going to see Homecoming on release day because I'm getting deployed to Kuwait. But I'm really mad that I'm not going to see it. But I'll be doing a couple reviews for Spider-Man movies while I'm out there. I thought that'd be pretty fun because I'm only there for 3 weeks. But how the MCU's going so far, I gotta say, I think my top Marvel movie would be Avengers, which is normally everyone's. And surprisingly, I'd followed by Ant-Man. I enjoyed Ant-Man a lot. I thought the characters were fun. I was actually very mad when I found out it was Scott Lang instead of Hank Pym. But what can I say? They pulled it off. They made it great. And Avengers is basically damn near a perfect movie, and I thought that was pretty good. Right now, I'm actually reading some Sam Wilson Captain America comics, and I actually thought it was pretty funny. They had one little panel in there where Sam Wilson's talking about how much he loves America. And it shows him going through the TSA, and in his duffel bag, he has the Captain America shield. And they're like, "Sir, you can't bring this on the plane. It's a weapon." He's like, "Technically, it's not a weapon." And then the next panel cuts to, one full day with dealing with the TSA makes me hate America a little bit too. I thought that was hilarious. And I don't know why, but the comics and the actual movies, I feel like their comedy blends in with each other, and I kind of forget that, they're apart. I mean, I don't forget, but you know what I mean. I feel like they're very similar. I'm looking very forward to Spider-Man being in the MCU now. Well, I mean, he's been in the MCU for a little bit now, but I think it'd be amazing, since he's going to be in Infinity War, is that he gets the black suit now, and we get a little bit of Venom before Venom is actually in the MCU next year. So that way we're not, overloaded with a ton of stuff. Because when I heard they were doing Venom without Spider-Man, I know everybody thought that was a horrible idea. Because how can you have Venom without Spider-Man? The reason why Venom hates Spider-Man is the pure and total fact that the symbiote was rejected by Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man. So it has a deep-seated hatred for him. And when they threw in that Carnage might be the antagonist in it, I know a lot of people were interested. I actually lost a lot of my interest in it, just for the fact that as much as I'd love to see Carnage on screen, and if they could get Christopher Titus to play him, it'd be amazing. But I feel like it wouldn't be it'd be way too overloaded. Think about it. You'd do a Venom origin. You'd have to throw in the Venom symbiote basically having a kid, becoming Carnage, and then Venom trying to face Carnage. The biggest problem with that is Venom can't face Carnage on his own. Spider-Man can't even face Carnage on her own. Every time they have to team up to stop Carnage. And when they said Spider-Man may be in it, it felt a lot better. I mean, that was probably Kevin Feige saying, "Hey, listen, bitch, this is my world. You do what I say." And they said, "All right, he's in the MCU." It's probably what happened, to be completely honest with you, because Kevin Feige is basically a god now. But, yeah. Spider-Man, by far my favorite character. It's kind of sad that Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan hate Tom Holland. I was listening to his couple of their interviews yesterday, and they just can't stand him. It's hilarious. Me personally, I think I'd make a pretty good Peter Parker myself, but I'm not gonna throw a huge deal about it. But I do like Tom Holland. He's definitely, for the few minutes we see him on screen, he's a good Spider-Man. Hopefully he's still great in Homecoming, and from the reviews it turns out it's going to be amazing, which I think is going to be great. And I'm kind of sad that Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans they're on their last couple movies or last movies, and I think that sucks. But I think it'd be an amazing way to go off if they both die off in Infinity. But when they die off, how they're on ends right now. Maybe they go out together, finally as friends, teaming up against Thanos, and either miraculously stopping him or leaving it to the next Avengers to stop him with their sacrifice. Kind of like what they did with Coulson, which brought the Avengers together. But they're going to stay dead, not like Coulson with his weird limp walk. Yep. And I think that's going to be it for the show. It's a little short this time. Still getting used to podcasting. I apologize if I'm a little bit awkward in it. This is my first time ever recording. But, hey, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. This is Good Things. This is your host, Jordan Goodman, signing off.